Chapter 9. And you want to repeat this battle, only against the rival coven? I asked, somewhat intrigued as to the possibilities. Exactly, and thanks to you, we have the hidden army that we need to make this work. Our manifester, especially now that he has the pulse of all our favorite pets, will have great power. I have spoken to Arena, and I calculate that we have the necessary impact in terms of damage in order to shatter the enemy. We are going to engage normally, somewhat cautiously so as to minimize the casualties on our side from enemy pistols and rifles. Luckily, if we remain at a decent range, the accuracy of their weapons will be negligible. They will naturally engage us directly, hoping to crush us. I estimate that they will attack us in the same way as we are deployed, directly in the front, with some of the edges peeling off in order to attack us from the side and from behind. Once they get close enough, our manifester will hit them directly at the center, with enough force that the center more or less crumbles. Our fighting sisters and the manifester will then start to make their way towards the center, while engaging either of the enemy army wings. If we do this correctly, the center will crumble, as will the morale of the rest of the enemy soldiers. Once their morale is gone, which would only be moments after the manifester engages the center and then begins to focus on the wings, our soldiers will open fire with their rifles and pistols. The combination should shatter them, especially if they came into battle expecting an easy victory against an opponent who has never before in living memory attacked them directly, finished the sister who had created the wildcard plan. Chances of success? Asked the matriarch. My opinion, around 80%, replied the sister. I can live with 80%. What say everyone else? Asked the matriarch. I glanced around the room, and one by one the sisters agreed. Most crucially, the warrior sisters that would be accompanying me in battle agreed with the plan. Some even commented that they were looking forward to seeing the plan implemented on the field. Morale was high in our coven. To war, then, ordered the matriarch, and we all left the room. The next few days were filled with labor and toil. Getting the soldiers ready, making sure that all the weapons and armor that the soldiers used was available, and briefing them on general strategy, those tasks occupied our days. We did not disclose much, only that we will be attacking a rival coven, and that they should prepare themselves as best they can. The fact that we had a manifester in our ranks, however, was revealed to the soldiers. The chance of some infiltrator getting wind of it and making their way back to the rival coven was deemed to be minuscule, while the benefits towards the morale of our soldiers was too high to pass up. "Machine cleaner," yelled out a familiar voice. I turned around and saw that it was a soldier that was sent in to negotiate with us, the moment that my wingman and I found the mock slum as we escaped the pulse fault. "What a surprise," I said, walking over to the approaching soldier and shaking his hand when I got in range. "Indeed. Although it is interesting that you are alone," replied the soldier. "My friend was tapped by the entities that we serve," I replied with a smile. "You mean that I serve? A manifester tends to become one with the vampires. I will likely have to address you as Lord soon," said the soldier, knowing of my ability as a manifester. "For now, you can rest easy. I am no lord," I replied. "I take it your friend did not make a good impression with our masters?" asked the soldier. "That is correct. As we walked deeper into that tunnel in order to find out what our test was, he drew a pistol and said he was going to wound me and then extract all of my pulse. I tried to calm him down and said that he was being foolish. After all, how was he going to get the pulse out of my system? Until I saw that he had a pulse injector," I replied. "Typical," replied the soldier. "Perhaps, but luckily for me, I was saved by one of the entities that you mentioned. The bastard only lasted a few seconds before he was face down on that disgusting tunnel floor, dead," I finished. "He deserved it. No doubt he failed whatever test our Lord had for him," added the soldier. "He did. Apparently I passed that test, and had several others that I needed to do. I passed those all, and then they discovered that I could manifest," I said to the soldier. "Fortune has favored you, Lord," said the soldier with respect. "Indeed. Now to the matter at hand. We have a battle to prepare for," I said to the soldier. "Yes, Lord," he replied, and we got to work. A few more days passed, and the army was as ready as it would get for battle and war. The soldiers were all armed with rifles and pistols. Days of work had to be expended in order to get the surplus stock operational. Even so, the weapons were somewhat crude and inaccurate, which meant that the wildcard plan had to be flawless, or else our coven would surely be destroyed. Morale, however, thanks to the revelation that we have a manifester at our side, was astonishing. From conversations with some of the soldiers, who did not know of my identity, I discovered why the manifester was such a strong stimulant for the morale among the army. Many among the slum population believe that manifestors are incredibly rare, and that whenever one appears, it means that entire nations have their fortunes changed. The manifester for these refugees and descendants of the company nations is intertwined with legend. Thanks to this, our soldiers were not likely to rout from battle, a vital component of our wildcard plan. We, after all, needed each and every soldier to remain courageous and steady, if we are to successfully loot and take everything that this mighty rival coven has. The sisters, alongside the army commanders, have selected a decent array of women to serve as additional transport for any loot that we recover. In addition, the sisters had widely selected the most attractive and youthful of the bunch. While this decision normally has immense risks, namely the fact that youthful women among the slums are key to the production of more harvestable livestock and soldiers, the fact that our coven is surely to be destroyed if we lose this battle means that such risks are irrelevant. After all, if we lose, it will not matter if the women survive, since the coven will easily fall. And the benefits, namely the increased morale among the men, a result of the innate masculine desire to impress women, and the male desire to protect said women, are incredibly beneficial. Our army will not rout until it is all but destroyed. Another day had passed, and the army was eager for battle, especially after they are informed that the best of the slum women will be accompanying them in order to assist in the recovery of loot. We had one last meeting among the coven before the battle. "Hit the center, then the apparent weakest wing," said a sister. "Agreed," I said to the sister. "I can live with an 80% chance of victory. Besides, their soldiers are soft and juicy anyways," said another sister with a smile. She was our most experienced warrior. "I'm sure that you'll be able to get quite the snack as you run through their lines. Just do not get shot, sister. We need you for when we deal with those rascal witches once we enter their coven," said another warrior sister. "I thought that is why we are bringing the manifester. We get to take a break while he burns the witches to a crisp with his pulse," replied the experienced warrior. "I'd be glad to, if our best warrior does not think that she is up to the task," I teased, and the coven erupted in laughter. Even the matriarch betrayed a large smile. "All right. I've had enough meetings related to this to last a decade. Is everything ready?" asked the matriarch, and we all applied in the affirmative. "To war, then," ordered the matriarch, and we all left the room. The army departed some 2 hours after the conclusion of our final war meeting. The matriarch and the rest of the sisters, alongside a fledgling reserve of soldiers, mainly the ones who were too young or too old to reliably fight, stayed behind to guard the coven in the event of a surprise flank attack. Everyone else, however, fully armed and armored, set off for the enemy coven. The distance would take around 3 or so days to traverse, and we wasted no time as we marched at maximum speed. We, after all, did not want to give the rival coven any time to adequately prepare. The land proved to be dry, with a few hills, perfect for setting up camp and a defensive perimeter. Surprisingly, we exceeded our distance expectations, and by the end of the first day, we were around 40% of the way there. I believe we have the exceptionally high morale of the soldiers to thank. I remained hidden, dressed in a leather uniform, with some of the special metallic armor sewn in and attached in the form of chainmail. The suit was very light and more or less useless for protection. It was meant to help distract the enemy sisters for a split second at the most, long enough for me to blast a nice dose of hot plasma pulse straight into their bodies. I had one of the crude surplus rifles that had been recently refurbished from the stockpile. To the other soldiers, I looked like a junior who just missed the cutoff for staying behind. While I was not given any respect whatsoever by the rest of the soldiers, my disguise was ironclad. While some of the soldiers have seen my face and know my identity, the army was large, and the vast majority did not. No spy, if we had any inserted within our ranks, would find out who I was in time. And considering that I had to deal with disrespect by the managers of the factory for many years, I believe I could stomach a few days of insults without any problem. After all, at the moment of battle, I get to astonish everyone with my abilities. "You think we really have a manifester?" asked one of the soldiers. It was late at night, and we were camped in after the first day of march. "What makes you say that we do not?" I replied. "It's quite simple, youngster. We are nothing but ants to those vampire entities. With the power that they wield, they could kill us all with just a flick of the finger. They are probably sending us out to die so that they can replace us with a fresh batch of miserable fools to kill and use," replied the soldier. I remained silent. No matter if it is a rambling at the lunchroom of the factory or a rambling at camp while out at war, such talk never ends well. And the more I talk, the greater the chance that I let something slip that suggests that I have never lived in the slum. "You're not going to respond?" pressed the soldier. "Why would he? You're talking garbage that'll get you tapped the moment that the vampire entities find out. Shut your mouth. Failing that, leave the kid out of it," replied another soldier. "Fine, I'll leave the kid out of it. But you have to admit, something is off about this. Our vampires found a manifester, with how rare they are," said the frustrated soldier. "Lucky bastard, I have to say. I heard one of the legends that a manifester can have actual sex with a vampire and survive to tell the tale," replied the other soldier. "Lucky bastard indeed. Imagine how hard those girls suck," replied the angry soldier, and everyone who was in earshot roared in laughter. One of the officers, however, was not as pleased, and he got up and made his way to the angry soldier. He walked up to the leaning soldier, and in a quick, clean motion, pulled out his pistol and smacked him hard across the face with the buttstock. The angry soldier fell flat on the ground, momentarily stunned before regaining his senses. He got up and returned to leaning, not caring the slightest about the punishment that he had just received from the officer. "If I hear another word from you, I'll shoot you myself, you hear?" roared the officer. From the sound of it, he has had to deal with this soldier for quite some time. "Waste of ammunition. Shouldn't you save it for whomever we are heading off to fight?" teased the soldier, which drew giggles from the rest of us in earshot. And it earned him a kick in the stomach, which caused him to slump on over in pain. "You're right. I should just beat you to death." "Not another word," said the officer, who left to return to his previous spot. Feeling sorry for the foolish yet brave soldier, I pulled out my ration flask of the most miserable alcohol that had ever been brewed by mankind and threw it at the soldier. It landed right next to his face, and no matter how hard he tried to resist, a smile emerged from his lips. "I was wrong about this kid. He's all right after all," replied the soldier, who got up and took the flask. He leaned once again and began to drink. "You need it more than I do," I said to the soldier. "Kid's right. Now drink up and shut your mouth," replied the other soldier that was in the conversation. The angry soldier followed that order. The rest of the night was uneventful. It was hard to fall asleep. The massive amounts of pulse that I have stored within me was making me irritable. A good sign, because when the moment comes, I have no doubt that the results will be spectacular. I woke up the next day at the same time as everyone else, right before the rise of dawn. "Up and about! We have a march today, and a battle tomorrow if we are lucky," yelled out our officers, their booming voices awakening us quickly from our respective slumbers. By the end of the hour, we are in formation, our camp packed up and loaded onto wagons, and marching off towards the direction of the coven. Morale was high, but word was spreading fast. The soldiers, one by one, began to find out the respective enemy that we are fighting against. "I can't believe it. The coven that has forced us time and time again to hide for weeks at a time. That is our target?" said one of the soldiers near me out loud, as news about the discovery reached our respective positions in the army. "Our lords aren't stupid. If the vampire entities think they can defeat their rival vampires, then who are we to question them?" replied another soldier. "That is all well and good, but you have to admit that they are being somewhat bold. We have a manifester, but to take on the most powerful coven in the region, it's quite the jump." It is what was likely a mirror example of what was going on all across the army at this point. One of the local officers made their way towards us and began to educate us on the error of our ways. "I'm hearing that some of you are having second thoughts," said the officer. I glanced at his face and saw that he was the very same officer from last night. "Not at all. Some of the soldiers here are just astonished that we are going to be facing the same army that had forced us to defend so many times before," I said, in order to deflect some of the heat away from the other soldiers. "Well, let me explain this for you, youngster, and all the other fools that are surprised that we still have some spine in this slum. We have a manifester now, and the sisters have spent months making sure that he is the most powerful whoreson that is currently walking this earth. Furthermore, I have been told that a great portion of our lords are accompanying us as additional support. We have a manifester with us, as well as several sisters. Most importantly, we have the element of surprise here with us. The poor fools that are going to fight us will have no idea what is coming, until it is too late," said the officer. "Damn straight, sir," I replied. "Good. I hope the rest of you follow the example of this wise youngster here. Now keep marching," ordered the officer, and he peeled away, no doubt hunting for anyone spreading additional rumors. The rest of the day, at least until the start of the evening, was uneventful. We marched and marched, in step and in rhythm. Some of the soldiers began to sing. The lyrics to the music I had no clue, and I did not even attempt to follow along. Yet the songs were remotely familiar. I could swear that I heard them somewhere, but I could not for the life of me remember when or where I heard them. Perhaps a machine cleaner sang the songs as he cleaned the machine, and I was within earshot. That was the entirety of the morning, marching and singing until we ran into an enemy scouting party. We surprised them. They were comprised of only a dozen or so men, with an equal number of horses. The front of the army managed to kill the vast majority of them, but unfortunately for us, a few managed to mount their horses and flee, out of range of even the most distant-reaching rifle in our arsenal. Word quickly spread among the army, and by the time word had gotten to my position in the army, word then began to spread among the army regarding the identity of the scouts. "And now the great rival knows that we are coming," said the talkative soldier from last night, as word about the identity of the scouts reached our position in the army. "Good. Let them know that we have grown a spine and a pair too, and that we mean business," replied another soldier. "I'm not worried," I said, in a somewhat shy tone. After all, I wanted to keep up the pretense that I was a youthful young soldier. "Why not, youngster?" asked the talkative soldier. "Because they know that we are coming, and they'll likely think that we are mad. Hopefully they make a mistake and make our jobs easier," I replied. "Are you sure that you're a youngster? From knowing you the past day or two, you seem wise beyond your years. Who are the poor bastards that you were stealing pulse from?" teased the talkative soldier. "Leave the youngster alone," said another soldier. "I'm not doing anything," replied the talkative soldier. "You're a terrible liar. Shut it and keep marching," barked another soldier, and the talkative soldier silenced himself and carried on. As the evening began to give way to night, we set up camp. We were informed by our officers that we are only a few miles from the location of the enemy slum in Coven. We have apparently made record time and arrived well ahead of schedule. Great news for us, because that means our morale remains extremely high. Once the darkness of night began to envelop us, we could see the enemy position. There was a large hill, too small to be a mountain, but it certainly could be called one depending on your interpretation of the site.